Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to look at another Disney film. No, I don't like the corporation, but no, you can't escape it when you're doing other stuff. So we're going to be looking at Moana. Probably because I had difficulty finding things that were spring, possibly summer related. I can't remember when this is coming out. It's on my list. It's my list of things to do. For reference, this is being filmed on the 26th of October, which oddly enough happens to be my father's birthday. He's in his 70s, of 2022. So you guys are going to be seeing this sometime, I think, spring, maybe summer of 2023. It's difficult to find films. I think this might be relating to Asian American History Month, which means May. That's my guessing is when you guys see this again. I film these things by going down a list. Moving on. This is actually better than I thought. This came out in 2016. Obviously before my child was born. She's 3. So, and I certainly wasn't watching it. It takes place roughly in the South Pacific. A lot of people have a potential, including my libraries, mistake it for Hawaii. No. We're talking the South Pacific here, which is essentially Polynesia. A lot of the mythology they pull off actually come from the Maori, which are in New Zealand. And no, they're not the natives of New Zealand. The English settlers pretty much got rid of those. Check out another book series. I can't remember, not a book series, another book I did that's a pick your own adventure that has to do with a little bit of that history. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, that came out this year or last year. But I think that came out in March. So, moving on. But this is a lot. There's some Hawaiian connection, but mostly this is talking about the areas around New Zealand and what I grew up calling Polynesia, which is not necessarily Indonesia. We're talking the Pacific Islands in that general area, if you can call it general area. It's huge. We're talking like American Samoa and places like that. And yes, the South Pacific is huge, and there's dozens of islands everywhere, and dozens of cultures. But a lot of this is based on the Maori. That's where a lot of this is. So the story of Moana, you have a young girl who's a princess on this island. They're pretty much isolated, and their families don't go, basically, they don't go beyond the reef, and their island is dying. So she eventually learns from her grandmother that her people had been ocean explorers. And she's very much connected to the ocean. The ocean has kind of chosen her. And this demigod, Maui, no, we're not talking about the Hawaiian island, though it is the Hawaiian island. This, I believe, is a Maori, which, again, primarily associated with the islands around New Zealand. He's a demigod. He took this heart of this island, and now everything's going crazy. So it's her job to, basically, she has the heart to go to Maui, find him, and make him put it back, because everything's dying. So that's what her grandmother tells her. That is her destiny. So she gets off in a ship because she realizes everything's dying and she's got to do something. She finds Maui, who is voiced by Dwayne Johnson, also known as The Rock. He's he did wrestling for a while. Now he's primarily just acting. He hasn't wrestled for a while. He's primarily known for his acting. And yes, I believe he's from New Zealand. So, and a lot of the tattoos on the islanders are based off his. So he's a big Maui's character. He tries to take her boat. She's along with a chicken. Comic relief here. He's actually kind of comic relief. And she follows him in the ocean, helps her from ditching her. And they go to bat in order to get his hook back, which is the magical thing he uses to transform into various different things, to fight this very large, very strange hermit crab-like creature who's based off I think coconut crabs who have a tendency to steal things. But of course this thing's covered in jewels, and you have a whole big villain song going on here. and they eventually fight and get this thing back. The next thing is to fight this giant lava monster. And again, Maui fails, and she doesn't know what to do. Her grandmother comes back to her in spirit and says, I probably shouldn't have put this on a young child. This is very much your choice. If you want to do this, you can. If you don't, I will always love you, kind of thing. Very different from Pocahontas, where the grandmother figure says, this is your destiny. You have to do this. So the grandmother, but of course Moana does end up doing this. She brings with her ancestors, in a sense, and basically goes off and is trying to fight this lava monster. And Maui shows up to actually help her, even though he had given up. And eventually he tells her, Jackie, you have put in a spiral. And then she realized that the lava monster had been transformed. The lava monster was the Mother Earth goddess, so to speak, prior to him taking her heart, essentially. And so she kind of summons this lava monster and puts back the heart. She's like, I know who you truly are. And she gives her heart back, and she grows into a beautiful island. And Maui leaves, and she goes back home. Her parents are happy, and and they go back to being a seafaring people. This is done very well. There's a lot of musical numbers. It's very funny in spots. It's very heartwarming. It was done by the same pair of writers and directors that did Aladdin. Can't remember what else they did. They did The Little Mermaid as well. So then Aladdin, and then they did The Little Mermaid. I think a few other Renaissance films. So that's why this is the way it is. It definitely follows the Disney princess formula in the music score, which again was created back with Beauty and the Beast by, I think it's Alan Menken, who was a gay man who ended up dying of AIDS when he was working on The Little Mermaid. He was the one who figured out this specific formula based off Broadway musicals. So it follows that formula, which is the reason it's good and the reason it kind of fits. It did as well as it did with the Disney Renaissance films, which, if you're aware of, are Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Little Mermaid. Technically, Pocahontas fits in there, though it didn't do as well. It has issues. I may cover that one day just as a let's look at the real thing kind of thing. We'll see. But I think The Lion King was in there. A few others. So I think the other film that they did was, and I've already reviewed that on this, which was another Disney princess film, which was The Princess and the Frog. So, also known as The Frog Princess, if you want to go look at the actual story. But I covered that, I think, must have early last year. That would have been come early last year. It's a food thing. I think we covered it in January. Moving on. But this is a very good film. There's lots of good music. Similar to Pocahontas, it does in fact have its issues just because there wasn't, why most of the voice actors were of the islands, there wasn't a lot of as much input as there probably should have been to be more sensitive. It was quite sensitive, but again, it was a mishmash of all sorts of things, from languages to legends to all sorts of things. So it's very much a Disney created film created by two white men. So it's as sensitive as you can get with, you have Disney and their tendency not to put people of color in charge of things. Yeah, they still have issues with putting people of color in charge of things, particularly their own culture. Please see Ranting and Raving, not only mine, but various other people's, about Mulan. The live action, not necessarily the cartoon. The cartoon was actually decent. I think I've covered Mulan. Pretty sure I've covered Mulan. Mulan's one of my favorites. This is still very good. I did not expect this. It's a good story. It's not a typical Disney princess film in that it doesn't follow the formula. There is no love story here. And Moana is the hero of her own story, similar to the Mulan animation. Again, there's no real love story, and there's even less here because Maui is a demigod. He's not. There's no love story there. She has a sidekick who's a chicken, but he doesn't talk. um, so, and then she has a pet pig who's not really part of this. He shows up on the island. So, but it is, again, it has more in common with Pocahontas in that sense. But again, there's no love story, and this isn't based on a real thing. It's not based on Pocahontas. I actually prefer the book for that was written by a Native American. I think this past November. You can check that out as well, and gives you a lot more of the real story, what's going on there. Not Disney. And thankfully, she's not sexualized. I'll say that. Moana is not sexualized whatsoever in this. So that's the other positive thing. She's a strong female character. Again, in this case, very similar to Mulan. So that's the other thing, is why it's pretty much as culturally sensitive as Mulan and intermixed of things messing up. Though Mulan, again, is based on a actual legend of a people in the region that is now China. But this is, again, it's very much a mishmash. A lot of it's based on the New Zealand Maoris. I'll say that. Some of the language stuff. And there is something very interesting that I found on their YouTube page. Not the YouTube page, but the IMDb page. There is a historical precedent for this weird time that they cannot explain, where the people of the South Pacific stopped sailing the seas for several hundred years. They had been great sailors and great navigators, and then they stopped. And then they started again with a vengeance and was basically colonizing all sorts of places, including, obviously, Hawaii. And that is true, and that's kind of depicted here. That is true. Nobody knows why, though. So it's still very much baffled to archaeologists and anthropologists today. So why on earth why that happened. So that is kind of an interesting historical tie-in. Now, does this have educational value? A little bit. It's a fun Disney film, but it can kind of introduce, particularly for the little ones, if you're, as homeschoolers, are doing a unit on maybe the New Zealand Maori or the various different peoples of the South Pacific, even the people of Hawaii. Again, these people are all interconnected because, again, the people of Polynesia colonized Hawaii. One of these days I might cover some of those stories. That is my native state. You're wanting to know where the heck I'm technically from. I grew up in Hawaii. Lived there till I was 14. So this type of island culture is kind of near and dear to my heart because it was part of my childhood. So I grew up among the Asian cultures, among the native Hawaiian cultures, and learning a lot of their stuff. I did go to public school briefly, so I did learn some Hawaiian. And if I do Hawaiian stuff, you will be able to tell that I can pronounce things probably a little better than most white people you might find on the American continent, the North America, on the mainland, or the mainland as it was called when I was growing up. So hopefully I'll do that at some point. This is still very, very good, and I'm still rambling. So, and again, it was much better than I thought it was going to be. And yes, I did end up skimming through it because I have a 3-year-old. I do not have time to sit through these things, and I don't have the patience for it, quite honestly, when it comes to some of this stuff. But the music is great. The characterization is great. It's a good introduction to, at least as a fun movie day, for if you're doing a unit on New Zealand or the South Pacific or even Hawaii, or looking at those seafaring cultures of Polynesia, as I was grown up calling it. Not necessarily Indonesia. That's a different area. So great film. Disney, they know their animation. It's funny. Most of the voice actors, with the exception of one, which I think is a chicken, are people of color. They are people of either the South Pacific, Hawaii, or New Zealand. They are Maori, which I believe is what The Rock is, or Dwayne Johnson. Sorry, that's his real name. The real name that he actually goes by these days, because he's not a wrestler. He's an actor these days. And yes, he really wanted to do this because he, I don't remember what film his kids liked, or he liked was, I think it might have been Aladdin. So again, it was this pair. So that is the end of this video. Please ignore this. This is the cat. Kendra shows up in these videos periodically because she's annoying and old. She's 13. So if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. I have this. I probably have a ton of other stuff. I'm doing a lot of book series this year. I have the Princess Diaries. I have the Guardians of Ga'Hoole. I have some more Temuera Pierce stuff coming out. That's probably already out by the time you see this. The Guardians of Ga'Hoole is probably running. It's a long series. It's a long series. It took me a while. So is the Princess Diaries, oddly enough, and her the Diaries of the Notebooks of a Middle School Princess as well. Those are covered as well. And then I'm going back, I think, to make Cabot after the Guardians of Ga'Hoole at the end of this year. And then I'm doing some more Catherine Lasky stuff as well at the very end. That will bleed into 2024, along with a lot of singular stuff like this. I have some children's books on my side that I need to review as well. Cultural stuff, family stuff, all sorts of stuff. And occasionally, I have some travel videos. Hopefully we'll be adding more as we are able to travel. Some board games, please ignore the cat, and educational stuff. Again, I have a 3-year-old. Even by the time you see this, she'll still be 3. She'll be closer to 3, and she'll be about 3.5. So we're not getting into the homeschooling curriculums yet. Eventually, that is to come. More homeschool reviews will be technically coming or planned for the future, but I have a 3-year-old, so we will get there. Otherwise, in the meantime, check out my channel, check out the videos of my book reviews and the film reviews and the other educational stuff. So, like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one. Thank you.